The Crooked Epic, 1, Innn 1, The Inn of Maniacal Madness, 12, Christopher, The Innn 12a, 2. Okay, okay, okay. Christopher did fall with impetus and was caught again. He was paralyzed from lack of sleep. Misuse of all his slowly metabolized blood sugar had caused him to go into a severe diabetic seizure. He was only about able to gradually neutralize the toxins in his brain while it was returning from dementia to fragile senility. The tightly positioned arms belonging to Toro held him upright with his elbows against his back before Chris hit the ground, and Toro dragged Mr. Good out of the emptied house. His voice box used to command gibberish whisperings for Draken's half-dead army was becoming more accustomed to lower pressure. While the zombie soldiers completed their final campaign of suicidal genocide, the air began to become more oxygenated. The three last remaining people of the land of Hob were regaining their ability to speak to one another. They also were deranged and confused, haunted and possessed by ghosts and demonic energies from this place beyond our world. Motu had difficulty understanding reality's reliable fabrics or differentiating animalistic, often delusional presences, and would drift into ramblings and twist his once well-coordinated pheromone and body language into raving mad dances. Motu and Draken had stayed elsewhere as Toro attempted to kill any remaining organic life forms left on the planet while wielding a flamethrower, riding a motorcycle straight to Nob. Their Pandora's box portals had become dysfunctional, collapsing upon any further use. Toro vaguely remembered the location still, and Draken had spent their moments planning during the hysteria by tattooing Toro's chest with maps and legends of the portals between Nob and Gob. Throughout occurrences of random violence that followed, these teleportation devices had been used sparsely. The power source's unique computerized system of tracking their exact locations was one of the few remaining mechanical designs from the complexities of an intricately constructed electromagnetic field. The roads to Nob were not fully constructed, and Toro's ride was bumpy as he took the train tracks and fired his flamethrower against the tree line along the way. As he began to drag Christopher's semi-conscious torso over to the motorcycle, he realized he had no side hack. Perhaps his notion of capture and interrogation had been hatched prematurely, but as he propped the body over the handlebars, he remained headstrong, undeterred. He had followed Christopher's trail through the forests and fields, so he would have to turn his route around to find a safe path back to the railroad. Yet, due to his enduring focus, he willingly directed himself into the northern landscapes of desert and places which had never been germinated. The light never naturally shone from the sky. He gripped Mr. Good's shoulder blades and pushed them onto the handlebars as Mr. Good's feet dragged across the rocky terrains. Toro did not even notice the torn legs and ripped feet of the man below him as they were burned off and shredded. He watched with auspicious and vindicated judgment of his headlight, beaming out the only points of visibility in the verdict as they quickly approached the end of the plateau. As the dropping hills lost his headlights, he began the skidding drift and used his emergency brakes to slide along toward the long and slow decline. Christopher Good's suffering had been enough to cause severe pain. He had lost almost his entire right foot, shredded and mangled beyond further use or recovery, and the breaking had broken every bone in his left leg and smashed apart the cartilage in his kneecap. His patella had been cracked and half had been left behind. Toro had lost his mindful path toward Hob, and madness kicked back against his rationale. He had gone into a gibberish muttering like Motu as he circled the bike and examined Mr. Good's barely living body. His blood loss became its own form of an analgesia. Christopher's Good's mouth hung open, yet his eyes followed Toro's movements, and he even speculated his captor's indecision could potentially lead to their impending deaths. They were both spellbound and stranded in a wilderness at once. They had no memory. Bellowing voices echoed up the plateau's hill from somewhere near the edge of a gully. It was ominous, but as Toro heard them speak, light in the sky lasted for the entire conversation. Toro did not respond, yet the voices compelled him to descend the hill. So he began to walk alone and was soon stopped by the return to total darkness when the voices became silent. He hesitated, forgetting Christopher, and trembled in fear when the voices began to shout louder and the lights shone dimly. Toro walked back to Mr. Good and pulled him down the hill with him, guided by these unseen telepathic voices, which were loud and full of wisdom that caused fear and shame. As the two men tumbled down the hill, Toro's tight grip on Mr. Good's collar was squeezing against the latter's throat, choking him, and nearly puncturing his swollen lymph nodes. It all disappeared when they entered the gully of bushes and ferns, tall and wide rocks, and thin yet high trees. They were in the courtyard of a Byzantine-style city, identical to those that had appeared in ancient Turkey. There were giants, tall humanoids with faces like the North American natives' elders. They spoke simultaneously like a hive of wasps, but showed dissimilar facial expressions, merciless, sympathetic, and wisely judgmental. Together, they spoke to Toro, yet in persuasive, empathetic telepathy, said more to Mr. Good's throbbing ears, the exact words to both, yet indecipherable at separate times. Toro's brain and flesh between his nasal cavity and upper palate became warm, then hot, and exploded in bleeding agony, forcing his soul into psychotic spirals of inhuman emotions, excruciating passion.